Stafford Steve here, along with the Bear, Chris Felica, behind the bets, the college years. What do we expect from the Huskies at home against the Trojans? Plus, the Bear and I differ on another wild card pick, and we agree on another wild card pick.
Handoff Elliott, right up the middle, touch to the right, to the goal line. Zeke Elliott's first NFL touchdown.
Basically grew up sheltered all his life.
Stiff arm, walk to the touchdown, Zeke Elliott. He does a little happy dance.
My short-term goals for this season are just to, becoming an asset for this team and helping lead this team to a Super Bowl.
Not only does he jump offside, but he runs into the kicker.
The offside penalty will be enforced on number 25.
I firmly believe that is the reason why viewership is down.
By far, the biggest effect is coming from the election. They're up by millions of viewers, and those viewers have to come from somewhere, and they're really getting them from Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, and Sunday Night Football.
And now, reporting for Outside the Lines, Bob Lee.
These are the days that Dallas Cowboy fans dared to dream about. Last year at this point, they were 2-6. They were irrelevant. Today, they are 7-1 for the first time since 2007. And rookies Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott have changed the face and the fortunes of this team.
Zeke starts up the middle, bounces left, stiff arm, walk to the touchdown, Zeke Elliott.
When you let those defensive backs know that you're a physical player, they don't really want to tackle you, and that's it. I mean, that's why you see me get a hurdle every game. Those guys don't want to tackle me when I get to the second level.
And, oh, yes, the impending quarterback controversy only adds to the melodrama. Yesterday, for the first time since his latest back injury, Tony Romo was running the scout team in practice for its entire duration. With Zeke Elliott leading the league in rushing and his jersey the top seller over the past 6 months, Elliott also presumably remains under NFL investigation over allegations of domestic abuse. In short, with the football clock ticking on the top team in the NFC and a theoretical 6-game suspension possibly on the table for Elliott should the league decide it that way, the collision between Elliott's critical on-field value and the NFL's domestic violence discipline, that is fast approaching. Now, there are several important facts here. Elliott is not being prosecuted by law enforcement for these alleged incidents. An additional alleged incident in February in Florida was reported last week. He was not prosecuted there, just as Elliott was not prosecuted over an alleged incident in Ohio over the summer. Late in October, Elliott spoke to NFL investigators, raising the specter of a possible suspension. Now, as Outside the Lines first reported 11 days ago, ESPN's Seth Wickersham witnessed a confrontation between Cowboys owner Jerry Jones and NFL special counsel Lisa Friel. She is in charge of domestic violence investigations. This was at the owners' meetings last month in Houston. Jones at one point was yelling at Friel with the statement, quote, "I'm saying this as an owner." Jones also said to Friel, quote, "Your bread and butter is going to get us both thrown out on the street," at which point a Cowboys employee led Jones away from Friel. So Zeke Elliott's league-leading skill and his continuing availability to the Cowboys are critical. Who is this young man? E60's Tom Rinaldi examined that recently.
I'd like to say that I'll be taking my talents to Columbus, to The Ohio State University.
But when Elliott chose Columbus over Columbia and Ohio State over Missouri, his parents' alma mater, he knew the decision to leave home wouldn't be easy for him or his family.
I kind of felt like I was maybe kind of betraying my home state, betraying the people that have watched me my whole life, and it really kind of hurt me.
And a big part of his life decided to make the move away from home with him. His father, Stacy, left his job in social work in Missouri and found a similar posting in Ohio, settling a few miles away from his son.
I mean, at first I was a little iffy about it. Just like, man, I'm trying to get away from home, try to get away from you. Why you trying to follow me down here?
We were afraid that Ezekiel would not be successful initially coming here because he basically grew up sheltered all his life.
Ezekiel does call on his dad for a lot of things. Ezekiel was always used to being, around a smaller school, smaller class size, and just kind of to be there for him at first.
Zeke's father helped him get through his freshman season in 2013, where he played as a backup. Then, as a sophomore, Zeke won the starting job, despite breaking his wrist in fall camp. By mid-season, playing essentially with just one hand, he was rolling.
And Elliott trying to get to the edge. Did he get there? Yes, he did. Touchdown.
More than his production, Elliott gained attention for his fashion. Notably, the way he wore his jersey pulled up high. Zeke and the Buckeyes' season was on the line in the Big Ten championship game. At stake, a possible berth in the first ever college football playoff.
And here's Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott lost his shoe. He's still huffing.
I saw something that I had never seen in him.
Snap to Jones, hands it Elliott again. 25-30, left angle to the 40, to the 50, Elliott, and he may be gone. He's to the Wisconsin 20. Touchdown, Ezekiel Elliott, 81 yards to the house.
Elliott ran for 220 yards, a Big Ten title game record, in the Buckeyes' 59-0 win over Wisconsin. That merely set the stage for the national semifinal game against Alabama and Elliott's moment.
And off to Elliott, turning to the left side, breaking free. He's to the 30, Elliott to the 40, to midfield, pulling away from the defenders. He's going to take it to the house. Touchdown, Ohio State. Ezekiel Elliott, 85 yards.
I saw a young man who had came to age. It was that moment where I said, Ezekiel Elliott is here.
20 rushes, 230 yards. The most ever by a single back against the Nick Saban coach defense.
Big Ten.
And that left just one more game to play, one more vision to realize.
The first of its kind. No other big event really feels quite like this.
How did you run?
I ran harder than I ever ran my whole life.
Up the middle, Elliott inside the 30, Elliott 20. He accelerates the 15, Elliott at the 10. He's going to go! Touchdown, Ohio State!
36 carries, 246 yards, 4 touchdowns. And when it was over,
On this championship night, Ezekiel Elliott writes his name into college football history.
If you trust your support system, you trust the people that care for you, and you listen to them, then nothing but good things can come from that.
Tom Rinaldi for E60. Zeke Elliott, league-leading rusher under the microscope. Jane McManus is here. You know her from ESPNW, here reporting on the NFL and on domestic violence. And Joe Banner, ESPN NFL Insider, is here. Joe, I'd mentioned the two clocks that are ticking. 7 and 1, the football clock is going. You've got the investigative clock. Clearly, from that confrontation in Houston, on Jerry Jones' mind. How tough is that to manage, and how well are they managing it?
Well, it's very tough to manage. When you're running a football team, the biggest enemy is the unknown. So with a coach, a young quarterback who's counting on this running game, the whole front office not knowing what's going to happen here is very unsettling. So I'm sure they want an answer. I'm sure they want a good answer, but I'm sure right now they're feeling like we need to get an answer. We need to know what's going to happen so we can plan for the rest of the season. A huge difference-making, as big a difference-making rookie as we see come into the league.
And the optics of that conversation, or you could fairly call it a confrontation, aren't good.
No. And listen, we will all remember that when whatever happens, happens. So that will be reflected. It will affect the prism by which we interpret whatever happens, knowing that confrontation took place.
As to what might be happening, the investigative interview occurred in October, Jane. What do we know about where things stand?
Right now, the investigation is ongoing. I spoke with the NFL just today to confirm that. It encompasses not just the incident that happened that we all know about, but also what happened in Florida and was reported in February, and then anything else that we may not know about. All of it is kind of being looked at in this big pile, and they're very meticulously trying to go through and make sure that they have everything they need, because they want to make sure that there aren't any surprises after they do come up with whatever decision they make, whether it's
do we need to say Josh Brown here, right?
Right, exactly. With Josh Brown getting one game and then afterwards the admission basically coming out that he had been an abuser, I think the NFL is very aware of that, and certainly the investigative group is, and would like to avoid that happening again.
That said, and clearly it is an issue, as Joe articulated, and as Jerry made it clear from his remarks to Lisa Friel, it's important. If there is no there, no prosecution, are they affirmatively intending to tell the Cowboys and Elliott, just move on?
Yes, they will tell them if they come to a decision one way or another. The Cowboys will have closure, and there'll probably be public disclosure of what that is as well. They walk a very fine line here, right? You don't want to have a player who's having an amazing season who then has this cloud hanging over them for game after game after game. And at the other side of that, you have a league that has to be committed to this issue, because publicly it does not look good when they're not committed to it. And so they want to make sure that they're not having a different standard for a player who's having a season like Ezekiel Elliott and then a different standard for a player who's not as good.
You could make an argument that what Jerry did in that witnessed event already polluted the process. I mean, this is supposed to be an independent investigation. So the fact that he's even confronting a person who's involved in the investigation, you know, referencing that he's an owner, which obviously is a power implication in that, you could say he's already tarnished the investigation by trying to potentially at least intimidate the investigator.
If you add that to the outgrowth of the Josh Brown issue, more things discovered, even though the reporting was the more things were available in the public record, and you grant that the NFL, out of the best of intentions in the wake of Ray Rice, are trying to do the right thing. As a man who's run a franchise and knows this league well, is the NFL capable of getting their arms around this fairly?
You know, this is what baffles me. I mean, I know all these people. I was with them for 20 years. These are good people. They're smart, and I personally don't question the intent. Now, that's different than saying they've done it well or they've done it right, but I can't reconcile what I know to be these capable people and doing things that appear to not be done as capably as it seems like they should be capable of doing it. The Josh Brown was, you know, at least the way it seemed, you know, was readily available information, including just divorce records that are public, that they would have known a lot more, an incident at the Pro Bowl that we're aware of. So it's very hard for me to reconcile, because I don't question the legitimacy of the intent here. I know others do, but I don't. But
it's the fear of a misstep here.
Well, they can't, if they haven't already used up all their possible mistakes, they certainly can't afford any more now.
I think that underlying this issue is that not every owner is on board with the idea of having this kind of conduct investigation to begin with. Jerry Jones doesn't necessarily
Someone's got to investigate it.
Well, but Jerry Jones doesn't necessarily believe that you should have somebody looking at all of these different incidences, when what's going to happen? You take a very popular player off the field. How does that benefit the NFL?
Build a team around them this year.
That's
Popularity is just part of the equation.
Right.
Certainly, Jane and Joe, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Well, the conflict at Baylor University is very real. The outgrowth of the football sexual abuse scandal. This morning, Drayton McClain, former owner of the Houston Astros and a leading Baylor donor whose name is on the new football stadium, Drayton McClain's efforts to bring change to the University Board of Regents went public with an event in Waco, and ESPN's Paula Lavigne was there. What was the event about, Paula?
Well, Bob, it was a really spirited rally with about 350 people attending here in Waco, and then another 30,000 reportedly watching it online. They were advocating for greater accountability, transparency, and access to the Board of Regents. As you mentioned, Drayton McClain was here speaking. So was a prominent alumnus and attorney, John Eddie Williams. And he said he said that, you know, in a perfect world, the Regents would be up here addressing you today. And that got a loud response of applause from the audience. They're really upset with what they haven't been hearing from the Regents. One thing, though, you didn't hear much at all about was football, or even mention of Art Briles until media questions at the end. And Williams said, you know, our focus is not on athletics. They may be a symptom of the problem, but we don't know the extent.
Yeah.
And
I know you had an
also ran
opportunity
into-
to speak with Art Briles' daughter.
I ran into Art Briles' daughter, Staley Levy, and she was here promoting her father's campaign to raise money for a local domestic violence center. And I asked her about her father's role in this movement.
I don't think this board is, this group, Bears for Reform, that's not their mission, that's not their goal. They don't have that in the back of their minds. Let's hire a new board and then hire Coach Briles back. To me, that's not anywhere close to what they're trying to do. They want to see change at the top, and they want to see truth and honesty from the Board of Regents.
That Art Briles' daughter. Now, the university will say, the current leadership of the school, Paula, that they have been active in this area. They've made changes. They enforce, in fact, make the point that yesterday they announced their own governance review task force. They did that knowing that today was the day that the other faction, if you will, McLean's faction, would announce their occasion. How bitter is this divide?
It's pretty bitter. When they mentioned today that Baylor had formed that group on its own, one of the speakers mentioned it, and he said something to the effect of, "Well, the best way to kill an idea is to assign it to a committee." A lot of people in the audience laughed. So they don't seem to be taking Baylor's efforts and Baylor's word at much these days.
It's a university. We described it last week, and I think not inaccurately, as a civil war. Paula Lavigne in Waco at Baylor University. Thank you, Paula.
You're welcome.
Next, as we continue, the play Monday night that started a 7-minute delay in a game that drew the lowest Week 9 Monday night rating in 9 years. The NFL says change is in the air for TV ratings. What it could be, we'll talk about it next.
Hey, baseball fans, I'm Buster Olney, and on the latest Baseball Tonight podcast, we put a ribbon on the Chicago Cubs championship, and Jason Stark and Jerry Krasnick look ahead to what's going to be a very active offseason.
Thursday night NFL football this evening. You've got the 4-4 Baltimore Ravens hosting the Cleveland Browns, and yes, the denizens of the fabled Factory of Sadness are indeed 0-9, so those NFL TV ratings, in short, not about to get a major boost tonight. Yesterday, NFL broadcasting executive Brian Rolap said he would not be surprised if NFL television numbers for the entire year finished overall down for the year, even with the election behind us. Now, given where the numbers are in early November, that statement is more preparing the ground than any great revelation. Through Week 8, primetime games have taken the largest hits, down 20% on Mondays, 18% Sundays, Thursdays down at that point 16%. The NFL has long led the way among leagues on television strategy and adaptation, and apparently everything is on the table. This from Rolap. We look consistently at improving the rules of the game, the safety of the game, and the quality of the game, even if that means changing things that some people think are sacred cows. Well, that's intriguing. One obvious target, the pace of the game, thus the attractiveness of telecast. Rolap yesterday saying, could games be shorter? Could they be better? Are replays too long? We are constantly looking at those things to make the pace of the games more interesting. Now, at home, if you fast forward on your home DVR through an NFL game, the volume of commercials is simply staggering. And again, from Rolap, in a world where Netflix has no commercials and consumers are used to 15 seconds of pre-roll, is there a better way to do commercials with our broadcast partners? So change may be in the air and on the air. John Arad covers the sports media business scene for Sports Business Daily. John, it's good to have you here. Sacred cows, what could he be talking about? What do you think they might go for?
Talk about a sacred cow. For this network right here, a sacred cow is the advertising. And I think one of the things that the NFL is taking a look at is some of the commercial breaks. Everybody talks about you score a touchdown, there's a commercial. You do a kickoff, there's a commercial. And so they're looking at taking away that. But this network pays $2 billion a year for NFL rights. They need to make that money up by commercials. That's going to be a very tough negotiation for the NFL to have with ESPN and with NBC, Fox, and CBS, all of which pay more than $1 billion a year. I mean, they have written within their contracts that they're allowed to take those commercials.
I mean, aside from just the term, not to go too inside baseball for the folks who don't work in our industry, we call it linear television from here to there. You've got commercials that you play, and unless you're going to start allowing advertising on the field or on the uniforms, where else can they go?
And that's another sacred cow, exactly. Another thing that they're taking a look at in terms of speeding up the game is taking halftime and making it shorter, which sounds great, but again, the networks make a lot of money off of those halftime ad spots. So this isn't a unilateral decision that the NFL is going to be able to make. So they'll have to negotiate with the networks, and it'll just be interesting to see how that falls out.
These numbers strike fear, at least in the short term. You would think down 20%, down 18%. We are past the election season, you may have noticed. I know you're a great believer that was a big factor, but and Rolap says we're going to be down for the year, so he's lowered the expectations. Is it just the election, though?
I think there are many different reasons, but I think by and large, I personally believe the election is just it's taken the oxygen out of the room. I think if you take a look at the ratings for MSNBC, Fox News, and CNN during this year, they're up an amazing amount. I think the news networks over the election season on Sunday afternoons are up by 100%. It's really phenomenal.
Yeah.
And NPR actually they reported today that CNN beat its election year budget by $100 million.
Well, people are paying attention and perhaps have sports suffering. John, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Remember the play on Monday night, the 7-minute delay, the 2 calls that were both errors by the officiating crew? Well, Adam Kaplan of ESPN is now reporting that Walt Anderson's officiating crew, it is not contemplated that they will be disciplined for those 2 errors, missing the roughing the kicker call and the quick restart of the play clock, so nothing is anticipated. Next, the ties between the head coach of the number 3 team and the fabled underwater fry cook. I'm not kidding.
Hey, college football fans, I'm Ivan Maisel. On the latest Championship Drive podcast, we break down the Florida Gators, a visit from Mississippi State head coach Dan Mullen, and of course, it's Thursday, it's Phil Steele.
Outside the Lines is brought to you by Advil. Fast, powerful, and proven relief that makes pain a distant memory.
From Honolulu tomorrow, Arizona, Michigan, followed by Indiana and Kansas. It's all streaming, and then SportsCenter at night with Stan and Neil. So, Sunday night, Homer Simpson talking about someone else says he's like a sports genius whom everyone hates, to which Marge says, worse than Jim Harbaugh? And Homer says, well, not that bad, to which sports genius has responded.
It's pretty high class.
Well, the Simpsons.
The Simpsons.
Man,
I mean, it's stepped up.
It's not like, going.
It's one of my favorite shows. I love that.
Do you love The Simpsons?
Yeah, the animated shows, The Simpsons and SpongeBob are my 2 all-time very favorites.
Who's your favorite character on SpongeBob?
SpongeBob.
Okay.
SpongeBob. I love his attitude. He attacks each day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. I mean, try to model my behavior. I mean, we all should. I mean, what a great employee he is. He is a go-getter. He's always got a bounce in his step. He's got pizzazz. He puts his heart and soul into making those Krabby Patties.
And don't believe the internet meme. Nickelodeon saying it's not canceled. SpongeBob is Bob in production for an 18th season. God bless America. College football lines. Next.
Ole Miss heads to College Station Saturday night to face Texas A&M.
Stiff arm, down he goes! Down he goes!
Coverage begins Saturday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.